welcome to another episode of the CAFC Charlton All-Time Fantasy 11 Club. I'm your host, Sam White, and this is a dark time for Charlton at the moment. My fantastic guest today, this is last week, my guest today had a little bit of a breakdown, but that's kind of what I love him for. I love watching his channel. I love watching how emotional he gets in his show, and he kind of expresses a lot of what I'm thinking as a Charlton fan. It's the fantastic Mr. Tyler Rowlinson. In terms of YouTube bloggers, he's got the biggest following at the moment. I'm sure lots of you guys watch his videos. I certainly did. He's one of the reasons I fell back in love with Charlton. It was come across his channel on YouTube. It's like, oh my God, someone's talking about Charlton. And then from there, it kind of began again, and it just grew and grew and grew. And now I'm back to being a full-time fan of a club that I've loved all my life, and we're doing absolutely dog shit. So I blame him completely for that. Yeah, it was a great chat with Tyler. He decided to pick players he'd just seen in person. Don't understand why people do that, especially in the time that Tyler's been watching us, which is after the Premier League years and after all the good times. Basically, he saw a couple of good promotions, but that's about it. But yeah, we have a good chat about his choices, and some of them, be honest, never heard of before. So yeah, we get into a few of those as well. It's a great chat, and Tyler's a great guy, and it was lovely to find out a bit more about how he got into it, behind the scenes. Are we seeing the real Tyler? That's what I wanted to know, because he really gets emotional in his channel. So it's great. I hope you enjoy it. This is episode number 7 of 10 of the first series. So if you're enjoying it, let me know. Put a little message in, send me a little message on Facebook, wherever you can. I've had a couple of people asking me to start a Twitter, so I will do that. It does seem like a lot of work, but I'll try and do that as well. But yeah, get in touch. Instagram, Facebook, it's all under the same channel. You can find me. I'm Sam White Comedian on Facebook. Give me a little message. Let me know who you'd want on the channel. Who do you want in the next series? So next 3 guests, we've got the fantastic Mr. Ollie Groom coming up, Brazilians as well, from his channel, and the fantastic Mr. Gavin Billines, the gentleman, the editor behind the fantastic Mockbag. So yeah, we've got those 3 coming up. If there's anyone else you want on the channel for next series, let me know. Put a little message in. It'd be great to hear from you. And yeah, let me know what you think of the choices so far. I'll do a little rundown of who makes it into the first series best 11. We're going to break down who's got the most choices and that kind of thing. So I hope you enjoyed it. Anyway, let's go on to this week's episode with the fantastic Mr. Tyler Rowlinson. Hello and welcome back to CAFC, the Charlton All-Time Fantasy 11 Club. This is the safe space where it's okay to talk about the good old... No one wants to talk about League One for the 3rd season in a row. No one wants to do that. This is where we can talk about the good old times, the good stuff, the players we had that did good things. Do you remember them? Sort of a little bit. They're out there somewhere. And my guest today is... I don't know whether to thank him or blame him, really, because it was the first channel I came across on YouTube, and it was great to have somewhere that someone was actually talking about Charlton just in general, because no one seemed to be covering it in the news. But I got back into Charlton very much through this man here. It is the one and only king of Charlton YouTube, Mr. Tyler Rowlinson. How you doing, sir? You well?
I'm all good. I think that's the biggest compliment I've had on my 6 years of YouTube. Yeah.
Just remember how shit we are, and that's the compliment, isn't it? It's not like you're king of the Man City podcast. It's Charlton. Yeah. To keep it on the DL.
You know what? I'll take it. I appreciate that, mate. But yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad to be talking about the good times, as you say, with Charlton. But unfortunately, with my Fantasy 11, quite a lot of the players that I have are in League One. That's an early spoiler for you, but the good League One days, if we can call League One days good. That sounds horrible to say, but
we'll get into your team in a bit. But there's a few things I want to ask you and talk about. So for one, genuinely, I started getting back into Charlton because I'd gone away to uni. I know you're at uni at the moment yourself.
Yeah.
And I'd sort of that coincided with Charlton. The Charlton sort of decline after we got relegated to Championship first time in League One, and I started getting back into it. I'm not a glory hunter. I was following all of the scores and everything, but actually going back to games and following the news and stuff was around the promotion season, around Bauer's first promotion season. So your channel was kind of like, it just popped up on YouTube, and I thought, oh God, someone's actually talking about it. And it's been going for 6 years. You've got 4,300 subscribers. Where did it all come from? How did you get into it? What was the reason for starting doing YouTube videos around Charlton?
Well, I'd always liked the idea, so I started off as a matchday vlogger, or yeah, as they're known, as a rather infamous name in the footballing world. It's not very one that's widely accepted, especially when you look on Twitter. But I've been watching vlogging for I think a year or so before I started. I'm mainly watching. I think Spencer FC was a big inspiration from his West Ham vlogs. His was amazing. Bazinga was the same. And I watched a few more, and I kind of Fogden in his early days. I don't watch him anymore now. I'm not. Yeah, he's not a very polarizing figure. But then I think it was the 2017-18 season was when I started midway through. I had a look to see if Charlton had any, and there was Jamie Boxall, if you remember correctly. He was the first one that started, and I had actually, and not many people know this, but I had actually started vlogging before I actually put them on YouTube. I just never uploaded them on YouTube. I just never really, I don't know what it was. I just never really had the confidence. And eventually I thought, you know what, let me just go ahead and do it. And it was just very rash decision. But I thought, yeah, I'll just bang one on there. My first video was against Pompey. We lost 1-0. It was our 25th anniversary.
I was just watching,
returning to the Valley.
Just before I got you on, I was watching that channel, that video. It's incredibly different. Where were you putting them before you were putting them on YouTube then? Just on Facebook and stuff like that, or?
They were just never posted. I would just put them together. I guess the way I put it was kind of like practice. I kind of just did it and just thought, I don't know if I have the confidence to do this, and just ended up keeping them for myself. But eventually, I just put them on there and never really looked back. If you watch my first video now to my latest video, I haven't uploaded in 2 months, but it's very different now to what it was back then. But yeah, I just carried on, and I think when you say there, I'm now the king of Charlton YouTube. I think in a way I got very lucky, because I think towards the end of that season, everybody else stopped, and it was just me going. And I had only, I think, just over 100 subs at the time, going into 18-19, which of course was our promotion season. So I got very, very lucky in that I was the only one that, I think, for a few months that was covering that. And obviously it gained traction. We got promoted, which was brilliant. Some of the vlogs I did that season are times I look back very fondly. You know, the memories were incredible. The videos that I did, I was very proud of, and the support I was getting was insane. And it just carried on from there. Championship season, obviously more audience there in the championship, and it grew even faster. And then obviously COVID happened, and I think that was, and then relegation as well. And I think that's what really took the life out of me, really, because I think watching it from home and the motivation was that was kind of like the decline, really, when we got relegated, and we never really recovered from there. It was a struggle to actually to find the motivation to make videos, because we were so poor. And eventually when we were able to go back to the Valley, I decided that I didn't really want to carry on the vlogging anymore, because I just wanted to watch the games and actually, because I think I took for granted how much I'd miss it, and I wanted to actually live in the moment and enjoy it. I've come back with the occasional vlog here and there, and I still might, when I do intend, because I do intend to come back to YouTube very soon, but I still might maybe do some more vlogs, and it is something that I still very much advocate and very much support. But I just think now it's not really, I don't know, it's not really my style of content anymore. My channel is mainly now like sit down. I like statistics. I'm a statistic nut, love the numbers and stuff, and like to be informative, which kind of coincides with my uni degrees to study journalism. But yeah, that's really my story. Just a lot of luck, and really just started through my love for the club, which obviously at the moment is not very strong, because we're so poor over the recent years. But yeah, I just started in 2018, began for 6 years, and haven't really looked back since.
It's really impressive, because I mean, you've done 354 videos. That I was having a look at the channel before. I mean, that's a lot, and there's a lot of shit that's happened in that time as well. So fair play to you to keep it going. But that must be that. I guess that's the nice thing about giving yourself the flexibility, because I'll be watching your channel. I actually messaged you a good few years ago, because I was watching your videos in reaction to, because I find it really cathartic when we've had a shit game to watch one of the other guys' videos, or listen to Charlton Live to say why we were shit, and hear someone else vent that. I do find it really cathartic. So even when we have had a shit game, but you have given yourself that sort of the flexibility of just sort of, if you don't want to, you don't have to. But do you get a lot of people that are chasing you for content? Is there a time where do you get people like me hammering on, going, "Come on, Tyler, where's the next content?" Because like you said, it's been 2 months now. So I'm like, where the fuck are where's the videos gone? Where's the transfer update? I want them. So do you just, are you sort of rising above that and not really worrying about your loyal supporters like me?
There has been a few. I won't lie. There has been a few that have been like, oh, like, when's the next video coming out? And I'm like, it's coming, and I keep saying it, and it ends up getting delayed and delayed and delayed. And it sounds like an empty promise because I've said it a few times, but I do intend to come back. Obviously with loads of the transfer stuff that's been going on. Obviously we've been quite active in the window, which is quite surprising for us in January, which shows how well I think how positive our ownership is at the moment, and we're looking to actually spend money. But yeah,
the last ownership spent money, and we've got Charlie Kirk and Dean out of that. So spending money doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, but I think, well, I'd like to think that these guys now that are coming in are, I think, more League One proven. When you look at Charlie Kirk, I mean, he had only one good season in League One. I think a very good season with what was a crew team that was very much overachieving. But yeah, we took a punt, and that just didn't work. And probably less said about him, the better. But yeah, I think. Yeah, I do intend to come back. I think I intend to come back with like a big sort of video. I can think of the title already, like, oh, why Charlton Athletic made me quit YouTube, and just going on about all this stuff that has just gone wrong, and just kind of stuff in Appleton and all this stuff. But I think once that's done, I can kind of get back into it. And, you know, Addicts Editions is a series I miss making because it is something that I really did enjoy doing. Started that in the Championship season. That's been going for nearly 5 years now, which is insane. But yeah, the videos are coming. It sounds like an empty promise, but they are coming. I hope so anyway.
I guess, like you said, you've got quite a daunting prospect now because you've been away for so long. You've got so much has happened that first video is probably going to be about half an hour long, where you're looking at
most likely,
yeah. So that's probably quite daunting, and I can understand why that's why I could never do what you guys do, which is, you know, that weekly turnover, because it's such a commitment. It takes up so much time, and your videos do look really well edited and quite professional. So, and you know, what got me into it, a couple of things. So, what got me into your channel more than anyone else's at the time, and like I said, I didn't know of the other guy you mentioned, and I think you were the only two doing them. But the little clips of like the in-betweeners and little gifs and sort of that stuff. It makes it really relatable, and it adds that extra element to it. I really like it. Obviously, it's just an evolution of how you found your kind of style. So it's really interesting to watch. What I want to know though, I do stand up as a bit of a hobby. That's what I do in my spare time. I'm a stand up comedian, and when you're on stage as a comedian, you have this. Your persona is kind of a heightened, it's you, but it's not you. It's this kind of heightened version of yourself. So you turn up certain things, like maybe you're a little bit more confident. Like no one's going to want to be around a comedian if they're like that all the time. But you sort of turn up different elements of your personality. Reason I bring that up is because I remember one of the first videos I saw of yours, you got this, you were sort of, we just lost, obviously. And you get this, and it made me laugh so much. It was a pear Kopenberg. You get it out, you slam it on the table, you open it up, and you go, God, I'm going to need a few of these. And that crease, I was like, this is my guy. I'm fully on board. Sign me up, subscribe. How much of Tyler Rowlinson that we see in the videos is you day to day, and how much of it have you sort of created this character and the formula for the videos?
Wow, that's a good question. I think in terms of the meme clips, like the in-betweeners, that was something that I always intended to put in my videos, because I think it was the content I was watching at the time with YouTube, and like I was massively into the Sidemen at the time, and just funny edited clips. And I thought that, I mean, the way I literally do it is whacking in between. I mean, the in-betweeners is just the prime one, isn't it? There's just so many great quotes to use, and like you say, it is relatable, to football fans, because you literally go like, oh, for fuck's sake, you can kind of make it like a comedy aspect to it. I think I would like to say that. I think through the years, from my personal life off camera and off YouTube, I've got a lot more confident over the years. But I think that YouTube helped massively in that, and I think it brought my confidence out massively, because I don't know. I think it was just something that I always wanted to do, and it was kind of like, I hate to use this phrase, but I was kind of like in my own world, creating my own world sort of thing. And it was like, no one can sort of say anything to me. It's just me and this camera, and I just got on with it sort of thing. But I think if you asked my friends, they probably say the same thing. I've grown a lot more confident as the years have gone on. And I think that, as you say there with that clip with the Kopenberg stuff, I think that was probably very much me. That was my probably frustration, and probably prime lockdown. I need a few drinks because there's nothing else to do, sort of thing. So yeah, I think that coincided quite well. But yeah, I think that on off camera, I think I'm probably a little bit more laid back. As I said, a lot more confident. But I think YouTube kind of, I think with YouTube, you have to be more confident. You have to be sort of loud and a bit more outgoing sort of thing, because that's what makes it, and that's what gets people, you know, watching at the end of the day. But I would like to think that, I think especially more now, quite a lot of it is, but me off camera is very much the same now. I think the confidence, as I said, has grown massively from it.
Yeah, that's great. It's nice to hear people, because, you know, you hear so much bad stuff about social media and how, you know, you have trolls and that kind of thing. But to know there's the good side as well, and it gave you know, it gave you that platform. And like you said, it is just you and the camera, and you're creating content, and people can either watch it or they don't. But exactly. I mean, your hits and your subscribers speak for themselves. I think it's a great place. But I do think what's happened with your channel is you've kind of created a bit of a monster, in that there's this whole new kind of Charlton Vlogger YouTube mafia that's come about your way. And I was going to ask you whether or not, you know, it feels like any one of those guys is stepping on your toes, or does it feel quite natural? But I've seen you on the Charlton Chronicles that Joshua Wilcox does. I guess you guys all kind of get on quite well, and it's quite a very happy family.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the problem when it comes to vlogging, because I think when there's so many representatives for one club, you can kind of find yourself sometimes in a trap where you think that, okay, these guys are my competition, I need to get my video out first, or title it a certain way to try and get more hits than they do. And I think I fell into that trap in the early days, especially in the championship season, because there was I think 4 of us in that championship season, different to what they are now. And there were, I don't really want to go into it too much, because it happens sort of off camera and no one really knows about it, but stuff happened between me and the other guys which didn't really work out the way that probably we would have liked it to, and drama happened and stuff, and that's kind of the worst thing you really want. I think what we found now, especially with the Charlton Chronicles and Josh and Tom and Brazilians as well, I think if you make enemies, it's the worst thing in this sort of field. And it's just best to make friends and sort of not see each other as competition. Obviously, like, you want to have that bit of banter. You're like, oh yeah, my video's doing better than yours, and I've got more subs than yours. But it's all light-hearted sort of thing. And I think that's the trap that I fell into in the championship season, because I think I think if you spoke to the others that were at the time, you probably would sit there and go, we wanted to beat each other, we wanted to be better than each other, and that ended up with, well, I think all of us sort of losing motivation. I think 2 of them in the championship season stopped, and the other 2, which are myself and Tom, who was doing stuff at the time in the championship, we're still going now. So I think, as I said, making enemies is the worst thing, and doing stuff like this, you know, speaking lightheartedly and having this good communication and being friends as well and stuff like that is the best thing for this, 100%.
It's nice, and I do try not to get too emotional, but it's hard not. You're making me well up now. It's nice to know that you guys have all got this lovely little family. No, I love hearing your guys' opinions on the Chronicles and that kind of thing, because I think what you get is a true fan's opinion of the game that they've actually been to see that day. It's not just a case of people throwing around stuff, or maybe on one of like Charlton Life or something like that, or people coming in with this fully, you know, negative experience. We've all got one common enemy, and it is Charlton at the moment, and that's great. We'll just aim all our anger at them. But I think that's really lovely. It does, and you know, in my very, very early days of this, it does. Everyone's been really on board, and Brazilians and Joshua have done episodes and that kind of thing. So yeah, everyone seems really kind and nice, and it's quite nice to know that. What I think is interesting is that you guys are kind of, it's definitely the younger generation that are coming through, and kind of I don't know if it's just a mix of having the ability to use YouTube and having the time to do it, because you're all obviously all busy, and you're doing your uni and stuff like that. Do you get any negative comments from maybe the older fans saying you guys don't know what you're talking about because you weren't there in the days when we had this player and that player? Or has it kind of been has it been sort of supportive throughout?
It's definitely been like 99.9% positive, 100%. And I think that if you have a look at my analytics, or it's mostly the younger generation. I think, to be fair, nowadays it's more so people my age. I'm 22 now, so I think it's mostly sort of like the 18 to 22 bracket. But there are sort of younger kids that do watch it, which I think comes naturally, you know, with YouTube and the growth of social media. Kids nowadays are just addicted to it. There has been some negative comments over the years, and it is mostly from the older generation, because obviously times have moved on now. This is kind of I wouldn't say it's the norm now, but you do see quite a lot of, you know, vloggers and content creators and YouTubers emerge from loads of different teams. And there are obviously the older generation who, you know, haven't quite moved with the times yet and don't understand it, which is perfectly not you know, acceptable. You know, if you don't get it, you don't get it, you know, you don't understand. But that's why it's good to have that sort of conversation to understand different points of view, which is what I've tried to have with a few people. But then you do get there's, you know, the negative, you know, mugs, as I like to call them, you know, like, oh yeah, oh, you're just a match day vlogger, so your opinion is irrelevant. Give your season ticket to a real fan that'll watch the game. And I think I remember seeing that. I don't think I've ever had that, but I've seen vloggers get that, and I'm just like, do you really think that we're just going to games just to film them for profitable gain? First and foremost, I've never broke even whatsoever from doing this at all. I can tell you for a fact now, YouTube doesn't really pay that well for someone who has 4,000 subs. Trust me, it's not enough. Well, no, that's not to say it's my job or anything, but yeah, it just doesn't pay enough for me to live off. I don't break even. I don't make my season ticket money back from it, and it's like I am a fan. The end of. I mean, the truth is, if I wasn't a Charlton fan, I wouldn't be, you know, going to games and wasting my time and making videos just for that, because I don't make profit off of it. I do watch games. Like if you watch my vlogs, like they're 50 back in the day, they're about 13, 14 minutes. I genuinely do just record about 10 minutes worth of the game. The rest of it, I'm sat there watching it, and I don't look to record goals. I just, like, if a goal goes in and I don't record it, cool. I'll just celebrate and then record what's happened and then speak what's just happened about it. You know, it's all, I try to keep it very much natural, but there have been some negative comments, you know, especially on Twitter. I think back in the day I used to be very vocal on Twitter. I don't use it as much anymore, but you know, a lot of people didn't really like my opinion back then because I had that over my shoulders, the fact that I was a YouTuber, and it showed, it was kind of eye-opening, like how much we are actually, you know, sort of hated by a certain minority on social media. And I did receive that comment that I said earlier, you know, oh yeah, you're just a match day vlogger. And it's like, what point are you trying to make? Like, I am a fan. I have a valid opinion. You know, the fact that I do YouTube, that should not mean that I should hold back my opinion. I'm allowed an opinion, but I don't pay attention to it anymore, to be honest. I've never had it in person, thank God. But yeah, it's just something that I just brush to aside, because it is just so it has really just been so positive. You know, we just like to have that conversation about the game. If we play shit, we play shit, and we just talk about it, you know, what went wrong and stuff. But when you get that occasional negative comment, it's just, you know, just brush it aside, because I mean, ultimately it shouldn't really affect your life, really.
No, and absolutely, and I think that's the point, isn't it? What's the point of coming on and like not having an opinion? You have to have an opinion, otherwise you've got nothing to talk about. And if you don't agree with that opinion, that's fine, but there's no reason to comment on it. I mean, when you were in the last Charlton Chronicles, you guys did after the board meeting we had, I was watching that, and you guys started saying, why are they talking to Steve Brown about getting involved in the team? And you were sort of a little bit, you and Joshua were both a bit like, why would you talk to Steve Brown? And I was like, Steve Brown has got the fucking answers, mate. You guys don't have a clue. I didn't need to write that. I didn't need to call you up and say, guys, I think you need, because that's just a difference of opinion. That is the really interesting thing for me, is that I followed Charlton through our probably most successful period they had recently, between the ages of sort of 7 and 18, 19. So I'm looking at all of those players, and you guys have grown up with the sort of League One Championship, Chris Powell season probably being the best season we've had. And I'm thinking, you don't know how good we can be, but then that's kind of the fun of being a Charlton fan, is that not only have you got you're all watching the same game, but you're all watching it through sort of different lenses, and you're all kind of got different experiences. Like someone who looks at me and thinks, who I think personally, John Robinson, best player that's ever played for Charlton. Someone will be watching me who watched like Simonson, who won a Ballon d'Or, going, you haven't got a fucking clue. And then the guy before that who watched Sam Bartram, we think you've got no, like, how can someone? So that's kind of, that's the nice bit about this channel, is it is interesting to talk to people about their different experiences and where the different players come from, which is a really good point to come onto the team. But I did want to ask, so 4,300 subscribers, not enough to make a living. Good to know. I don't know why I'm wasting my time. I've only got 10 at the moment. But, do you have sort of an ambition with the channel, or is it more that we were talking previously, you're studying journalism at uni? Is it just that maybe the ambition is to kind of not use is the wrong word, but the channel could kind of set you up with kind of real life experience for that kind of career you're following, or is it completely separate and I'm talking bollocks?
It is exactly that, to be fair. It is exactly that. And it has actually helped out in the past in terms of actually getting interviews for apprenticeships. It's actually something that has been brought up. It's actually the reason why I'm studying at my university today. They took actually quite a big likeness to it. And we must have had about a 4 or 5 minute conversation about it. Like, oh, how'd you get into it? Like, what's this about? They were really interested in it. And it was quite eye-opening, the fact that, you know, people in the journalism industry actually do, you know, appreciate that sort of stuff, because it is different. It is something, you know, different. You gain an audience. And I think I've noticed a few times from people that I've spoke to in various meetings, they've said that if you've got, for example, like 1,000 followers on Twitter, you're a big deal. And so I must be doing something somewhat right. But I think in terms of ambition with the channel, there was never really some sort of end goal. That there was never like a subscriber goal. You know, I think hitting 1,000 subs was insane back in 2019, and then the fact I'm on 4 times that now is even more. Just it's nuts to think that 4,000 people would think that my opinion is somewhat decent enough to subscribe to, and my content is good enough. But yeah, there's never no real sort of ambition, no sort of end goal with it, really. I think the sort of thing really was just to give me something to do alongside going to watch Charlton, and something that I enjoyed doing. And I think that's something that I've been able to do for, as I said, nearly 6 years now. And I think hopefully that can carry on when I do eventually decide to come back. It's just the enjoyment of doing it, really. That was the ambition, and getting people talking. And yeah, that's just it, really. No real sort of, you know, number goal with it.
No, I think that's really honourable. I think the nice thing that you said is that those people who are, you know, at the uni, and probably it'll be the same when you go on to start your career, it will be a case of, well, you did it, and you did it at an age probably around 16, 17, where most people are out just going to house parties and getting drunk, and you were actually doing something that was sort of get up and go and do your own thing. I heard somewhere that the best way of doing the thing you want to do is just to do it. Like, if you want to be you want to be an actor, record yourself doing it. And there's similarities in the comedy industry, because, you know, you can get up and do a 5-minute spot kind of anyway. You just have to get up and do it. When people ask me, how do I get into comedy? So you just need to get up and do it. And that's the beauty of YouTube, is that you can literally just get up, do it yourself, go and watch a game, record it. And that's
exactly.
I think that's really interesting, and that's why it's fascinating, because it's completely self-made, and I really like that. And it is a true fan's opinion, which is why I think it's so interesting. So let's get into your team. So what parameters did you put on yourself? Because obviously I just said, you know, pick your best ever Charlton 11. What kind of parameters did you set for yourself?
So I did want to limit myself, because I think we'd had conversation on Instagram. You're saying that some people picked Sam Bartram, and obviously I think from the people that you've spoke to, they probably were never around when Sam Bartram was playing for us. So I wanted to limit to myself to players that I've actually seen. And it's difficult with me because, you know, I think back, because people will look at like some of the players I've had over the years, particularly I think 2011-12 when Chris Powell won the league in League One. I wasn't actually watching Charlton that regularly back then. I think I was probably similar to you in that I first started, I think probably 2015-16, the season we got relegated under the De Châtelet absolute chaos. And I wasn't about during the Premier League era. I went to my first game in 2007, the season after we got relegated from the Premier League. So I just missed that era. So I wanted to kind of limit myself to players that I've seen, and I've also thrown a few personal favourites in there. And there are some wild cards in there, as you'll see.
Yeah.
But there were some. But they were some personal favourites of mine, for sure.
I've got to be honest, there's a couple of names there I'd never fucking heard of, mate. So yeah, very wild card. So a good question I wanted to ask you before we get into it is, do you kind of go this, and this is going to be the soundbite for the trailer. Why doesn't history matter to you, Tyler? Why don't you care about the players that came before? Like, obviously, I completely appreciate the reason you've gone with those parameters, but is it almost like, well, because I wasn't there, that never happened to the club? Or is it just you don't feel like you can give a fair opinion of those players because you didn't see them live? I've given you a good answer there. Go with that one.
Yeah, you gave me a good get out clause there, but it is probably the latter. I just wasn't there to give a fair opinion. Like I know it's not that history doesn't matter to me. I'm very much aware of the players we've had in the past. You know, Sam Bartram, Keith Peacock, Derek Hales, the Premier League players. We could go on for ages about how good the players were, and I've seen, you know, clips and tried to educate myself as to how good players were. But I don't think that I can really formulate a good enough opinion to justify putting them in a team when I didn't have the chance to see them play. You know, I would have loved to have seen them play, you know, the likes of John Robinson and Jonathan Johansson, Klaus Jensen, Clive Mendonca, who I do consider as a personal favourite of mine, even though I've never seen him. So I've never seen him play. But I think it is just that, really. I didn't see him. I wasn't there to see it. It's not that it doesn't matter to me. It's just I just wasn't there to formulate a good enough opinion, which is why some of the players you'll see on this list, you'll probably look at it thinking, best ever Charlton 11, why is he there? It's because I grew up in a time period where we wasn't as good, and this player is here because he was a personal favourite of mine. I think that he did play well in a Charlton shirt. But yeah, I'm well aware of our history and how good we once were in the Premier League.
That's what makes it more frustrating, though, isn't it? That's the fucking annoying thing. Is like, how do we go from there to there? But I think you have to kind of you learn from your mistakes, don't you? But no, it's a beautiful answer, Tyler. No one can be upset with you for that. Let's start on your team. Who have you gone for Charlton's your keeper?
I tossed and turved over it. There was a few options, but in the end, I went with Dylan Phillips, which is very...
Well, that's problematic. It's a huge problem. Charlton Athletic cannot believe it. Dylan Phillips looks at Naby Sarr. What a place to make a mistake like that. Sunderland have hit the front in quite extraordinary
not exactly the greatest pick to
circumstances.
use with Phillips when I'm talking about best keeper.
My goodness me. That is heartbreaking.
Oh my God. Even just watching that back now is just, oh my God.
It hurts. It really hurts. So, why Dylan Phillips as the best keeper?
Yeah, I think it was between. There was a few keepers we had back in the day. I tossed and turved over quite a lot. Ben Hamer was a personal favourite of mine back when we was in the league one day. Stephen Henderson was another one I was a fan of in the Championship, and Ben Amos as well for his 17-18 performances. But I think with Phillips, it was really that he really took his time to sort of break into the team. He'd been here for God knows how many years and never really got into the team. He had a few loan spells, I think, in Cheltenham. I think he helped them get promoted from the National League, and they had a few loan spells there. And I think it was in the promotion season where he properly first got involved. And I think after Amos left, I think it was like, okay, let's give him a go, see how he fared. And I think, who else did we have in goal that year? We had Jed Steer, I think, the first half of the season, and I wasn't a massive fan of Steer. I think he conceded too many goals. He made a few mistakes, and I think Phillips should really have been number one over him in a few games. And obviously, Steer got recalled by Aston Villa, and in the second half of the season, Phillips really did put in some solid performances in that season, in the 18-19 season. Obviously, we had some decent defenders ahead of him to help him out, but he did pull off some very good saves and was very, very key. And obviously, Championship season speaks for itself. He was one of the best goalkeepers that season, in my opinion. Some of the saves he pulled off were just absolutely just insane. Never ever seen that from a goalkeeper. My dad, who I used to go to games with, he also was a goalkeeper, and he was such an admiration of how well he was doing, because obviously as a goalkeeper you see it through the goalkeeper's eyes and you sympathise with the goalkeeper. We're like, if they make a mistake, but the defence shouldn't be doing this sort of stuff. Like, that was what he gave me, that sort of insight. But Phillips was just incredible in that season, some of the saves he pulled off, and it was a shame the way he left the club. I mean, obviously I can understand it, not signing a contract, and Bauer phased him out, sort of thing, because I do agree with that, actually. If a player doesn't want to sign a contract, it's clear they don't want to be here long term, they're not committed to the club, get rid of them and get someone in who actually does want to be here. But Phillips, he was someone that I did admire quite a lot. He was definitely a personal favourite of mine in the season. Clip there probably doesn't do it justice with that playoff final mistake.
It's hard not to show it, though, isn't it? I mean, that game, I remember going along, I'm so up for it. Like I said, I've just I'd gone from the age of 7 through till 20, 21. I had a season ticket every year. I fell out of love with Charlton a bit around the Roland time, and then suddenly come back into it. And Bowyer and Jackson and Gallen, they seem to have this real philosophy, and then it all builds up, and you go to the playoff final, and then within 5 minutes, an own goal goes straight past. But I don't think it was Phillips' fault at all. I completely blame.
No, I mean, either. Yeah, I'm exactly the same. I didn't actually see it happen. Like, it's weird because obviously with Wembley there's two massive screens, and I remember they had a shot. I think Sunderland had a shot just before which Phillips saved, and then he played it back out. Obviously played it out to Sarr, who played it to Purrington, who played it back to Sarr. And I was turning around facing the screen behind me to look at a replay at the shot, and I turned back round, and all of a sudden everyone's like screaming and shouting. I turned back round, the ball's in the back of the net, and I'm like, hold on a minute, what the fuck has happened there? and I turned back on the screen again, and I look back, and I'm like, that has not just happened, not in the playoff final. And I'm just sat there like, this cannot be the reason why we bottle such a fantastic season. And yeah, I'm completely agree. I think you don't play a ball like that to a goalkeeper who ain't expecting it. Sar's literally just turned
Without
around.
looking, he didn't look.
Without looking, yeah, have that. I'll just smash it at him. And Phillips, he's tried to do it, and he tried to get there, and he's completely misjudged it. But it's, you do not do that to a goalkeeper. And
Sarr could have put it slightly outside the post. Just roll it to him, or
exactly,
just fucking look at your goalkeeper before you pass it to him. I think that was the first thing when I first went to my first ever training session. Make sure your eyes are open and look where you're passing the fucking ball.
Yeah.
That's rule one. Number 2, do your laces up. They were the 2 rules. I mean, Sarr was an amazing player. Like, I remember that ball. I can't remember the game it was in. I've got terrible memory, but there was a ball he played in the Championship. We scored from it. One of the best assists, probably the best.
Nottingham Forest away. Yes, I remember that. That ball to Taylor at the back post. Yeah. What
unbelievable! Mate. But
Sarr was a very frustrating player for us, though. Like he come alive towards the end of his Charlton spell, but he was just a very, very frustrating player. Like he'd be Virgil van Dijk one week and a Sunday Leaper the next. Like it was, there was no in between, and that's why he was so loved. Because he would just make so many mistakes, but then he would pop up with. I remember his free kick against AFC Wimbledon, like like where he was dubbed Roberto Salos. It was a great free kick, to be fair, but he was just such a frustrating character, as many of the players we had back then. But I think he was. I think if you had to say the most frustrating Charlton player, I think Sarr would have to be right at the top of that list. But a cult hero and probably a deserving cult hero.
He was great to watch him. So I mean, with Dylan Phillips, it felt like he went to Cardiff. He's now at Rotherham. It doesn't feel like he made any bad moves. But if you look at his career, he's only 28. He's not playing regularly. I don't know if he's injured, but it sort of feels like he's been phased out a little bit. Would you take him back? Would you sort of keep an eye on his career? Do you know what he's up to? Do you know if he's got any moves in the line? Because for me, I think fair play to him. I don't think of him badly for going to Cardiff because they were a better club than us when he left. Yeah. But you do think, well, if he had the chance, would he come back to Charlton now?
It's an interesting one. I mean, I'm in agreement with you. I do understand why he went to Cardiff. I mean, ultimately they were in the Championship, they're in a better position than us, and they're offering more money. I mean, being a footballer is a short career. You want to try and get as much money as you can, and I can completely understand that. I think his time at Cardiff, I think he did fairly well. I remember seeing a few videos. I think one video in particular on Twitter where he made an absolute howler. I think it was against Watford, and I think a lot of people were getting on his back then. But I think for the whole, I think he's done quite well in his career. As you say, he's only 28. He's been getting Championship moves, and probably deservedly so. I think he went to Belgium at one point as well on loan when he was at Cardiff. I'm not quite sure how he got on there, but I think it seems at the moment he's I don't know, maybe number 2 at Rotherham, or was number 2 at Cardiff as well. Would I have him back now? I think I look at nostalgia value, and I probably have to say yes. I think because of how good he was, and obviously he knows the club very well. He's been here since a young age. He started his career at Charlton, and I don't know. I look at the goalkeepers we have now, and I think that they've both got mistakes in them for sure. Maynard Brewer and Ice did, and I think Phillips didn't really make that many mistakes when he was in between the sticks. So he's. I mean, I don't get me wrong. I don't like the Charlton fans' obsession now with old players. It's like, oh, let's get this guy back. But I think with Phillips, I think you can somewhat justify it, especially when I think we could possibly do with some reinforcement in between the sticks and get a bit more, someone who's a bit more solid, a bit more confident. And I mean, with Maynard Brewer, for example, he's fantastic at shot stopping, but everything else of his game is quite poor. He doesn't come for crosses, whereas I think Phillips had that confidence, and he came for those crosses, and he was very commanding in his box and very rarely made a mistake. So Phillips is probably one of the old players that we had back in the day that I would probably make a case for. I would like to see him back, because I did very much like him. He was a very good player for us when we had him.
I think he connected with the fans. I think my favourite thing about Phillips was that he looked like he wanted to play for Charlton, and that you can feel that as a fan. You can feel like because he was homegrown, wasn't he, through the academy, and you think, right, he wants to be here. He wants to be playing for Charlton, and there's so many players you don't see that with. All right, let's go. So you're playing what formation are you playing?
Bob Standard 4-4-2. No nonsense.
Solid. And where are we starting? What do you want to go with first?
Should we go with a left back first? Go across that way. So with the left back, it's a rather interesting selection, I think, considering he wasn't actually our player. We only had him on loan, and it is Jada Silva.
Do you see this as a really big opportunity for yourself, going out for the first time, going out of your comfort zone?
Yeah, definitely. I think this is the next step for me in my development as a player, and I think Charlton is the right place for it. I'm just excited to get going.
I know you've won the FA Youth Cup 3 times. What type of player do you see yourself as? I mean, what do you see as your main strengths?
I see myself as a attacking fullback. Obviously, my size, I'm small, but I think I catch a few people out. I think they don't really, they kind of underestimate me a bit, and I shock them a bit.
Right, can I just say very quickly, the reason I chose that clip is because there's not a lot of clips out there of Jay Da Silva in a
Yeah, I
Charlton
can
shirt.
imagine.
But I think that is one of the worst, and I'm in a place of being a little bit arrogant here. I can understand that. That is one of the worst beards I have ever seen in my life. It's just everywhere. I don't understand it. Just shave it, what? Or just a little bit. But it's one of the worst beards I've ever seen. But that's me done. Why Jay Da Silva?
It was a very interesting one. I think the truth is really, I think you have to look back over the years in the teams that I've seen anyway. Left back has been a very weak position for us, and I think, to be honest, we haven't had someone as good as Jay Da Silva since he left. You could probably throw Ben Purrington into that equation. I think he was solid enough at League One, but I wasn't a massive fan of him in the Championship. But I just think with Da Silva, I think I actually forget we had him twice. We had him on loan I think initially in 2016-17, and I think at the time, I think left back was a very difficult position for us. That was a very weird time, I think, that year when I think we was under Carl Robinson. He was playing 4-3-3 with fullbacks as wingers, which I thought was really weird. We had like Nathan Byrne and Adam Chickson as wingers, and I actually didn't mind Adam Chickson. I think he wasn't anything special, but I didn't mind him. And then we had Lewis Page, who was either getting himself injured all the time or was just doing outlandish things and getting himself red cards all the time. But I think when Da Silva first came in, I think with that clip does do him justice. I think he exactly was that. He was an attacking fullback who I think was possibly a bit suspect defensively, but I think that comes naturally with like an 18, 19-year-old he must have been at the time. And I think we obviously did well enough in 16-17 to get a full loan spell in 17-18 and won Fans Player of the Year that year. I think many people forget that, and I think I think there was a few players he maybe could have put a case in for that season. Well, to be fair, we had a pretty poor squad that year under Robinson. It wasn't a great team, so it probably the best of a bad bunch. But he just was a very solid player. You know, he got forward very well, put balls into the box. Defensively, I think improved over that season as well, and rightly so, moved on, got his move to the Championship, went to Bristol City, and I think he's one of the many products of the Chelsea academy that never played for Chelsea and just had to move on, and has done himself quite well in the Championship now. He's playing well for Coventry, from what I remember, and yeah, he's done very well. And I think Charlton, once again, we can hold our heads higher with us developing a Premier League youngster and giving him that sort of pathway, because that's what we do. That's what we do at Charlton. If you've got a youngster who needs minutes, we will give them those minutes and we'll turn them into better players. And there's so many examples I can think of off the top of my head. And Chelsea are probably a big one. You know, Conor Gallagher's another one I can think of. But then there's the complete opposite, where you got the likes of Juan Castillo, who comes in and doesn't play for us. You know, there's that's happened in recent years, which is a real shame. But over the years, we've done that quite well.
Was it John from Tottenham?
No, John, from Tottenham. Supposed to be like the next big thing, the next big England thing, and he never made a single minute. I actually thought
all the way to the ground. This guy's going to be amazing, and then you never see him.
I actually thought he would have done quite well in my midfield as well that season. So a bit of creativity, a bit of flair. I would have thought he would have done quite well.
When he came in, we were lacking so much, and I really felt for Jackson. He seemed to just be getting hit with this hammer of, you're not changing it up. You need to change up the system. You're doing the same thing every week. But you sort of look at it and go, but what options has he got, really? And then this lad came along who you think is going to be absolute mustard. And I think it was pre the Gallagher. No, it must have been after the Gallagher loan, around that time, and we'd seen players from big clubs come in and do well. But yeah, Chelsea seeming to. I mean, Maatsen came along from Chelsea. We played him. So
yes,
I think that we do give players minutes when they've earned them. It's just that they need to be worthwhile putting it on. Raksaki being the best one most recently.
Yes. Yeah, he was phenomenal, Raksaki. Levels above that team last season, and I think I was quite surprised he didn't actually go on loan again, because he sat on Crystal Palace's bench at the moment.
Well, he played minutes though. He's getting minutes, and I think a good mate of mine's a Palace fan, and he was just saying that we just don't have enough players in that position to send him out on loan. Like, we actually are giving him minutes, and I think if they had signed a few more players, they probably would have loaned him out. But same as us, we can't afford. We're recalling Deji Erelere because we haven't got enough defenders. And you think,
Exactly.
and the worst one was Kanu. Bringing Kanu back was such a kick in the dick, because I thought him coming back after a full season at Southend, if he'd have carried on the way he would, we would have had a real striker in our ranks next year. But I really feel like we sort of still his growth a little bit. But he's leading the line, and until we do get a striker in, I think he's gonna be there. I just really get a couple in so we can loan him out and go and do what he was doing and come back better next season.
I agree.
Right,
I think he does. Oh, go on.
No,
I was going to say, I was going to say Bacano. I think he has done a very good job in the minutes that he has been given. I think back to the start of the season before we even loaned him out to Southend. You know, we had injuries. I think we had Lee Burn was injured at the time, and Nico was out as well. And he come in and he did a really good job. He scored some really good goals as well. His goal against Port Vale, his header was fantastic. And then we loaned him out to Southend, and he's obviously done very well. He got 4 goals in one game at one point. Like, he was really setting the league alight. And then it's the same thing you say there with Valero when we recalled him. It's just we had no option up front, and we decided to recall him. But I do agree completely, because he is 18, 19. He's still very young in the game. He's got a lot of development to do. But I will give him credit, because he has come into the team and he's done very well. Like, I think Jim Rodwell said it in the meeting. He's doing. It's a young lad doing the job of 2 seasoned professionals, and he has done very well. He's done very, very well in what he's been given. But I do agree. I think he does need to go out. I'd hope that he'd go out on loan again, maybe to League 2, and test himself a bit more and develop and give him that bit more of a challenge. And I think he is definitely a prospect for the future. He's one that I do rate quite highly from our academy.
And it brings out, and again, this isn't the place for this. This is supposed to be talking about the good old days rather than the crappy new days. But it does, having a striker like him does bring the best out of May. And you sort of need to build a team around May. He can't do it on his own. We know he can't lead the line on his own. So him playing in that number 10 role just behind. I thought Appleton was a genius, because suddenly he was playing May in the drop back position. I was like, oh my God, this guy's a maverick. It was like, no, obviously that's why, because Holden didn't have any options other than playing May out and out striker, and that's why he didn't score for 4 games. But we definitely need someone alongside him.
Appleton and genius are 2 words that should not be going together.
Mate, he wears a North Face jacket. I'm got nothing bad to say against him.
Stone Island as well.
He'll knock me out. North Face, fuck him. Stone Island, that's one you've got to worry about. All right, across the back line then. Where are we going next?
We'll go. Should we go with the other fullback, right back? We'll go get rid of the fullbacks. I think this one could be an interesting one, because I think there was a very obvious one that I could have gone with in his place, but this one is a personal favourite of mine. I've gone with Anthony Dijksteel.
I think this is a muted video.
Yeah, it will be. It will be most likely.
This is compilation Middlesbrough put together when they picked him up. But you do see. I mean, I wasn't in the stadium when he was playing much. So tell me about him. He did play a bit in that season we got promoted, didn't he?
He played a fair
playoff team.
He played a fair bit. I think he first broke into the team in the season before under Carl Robinson. I think we must have had a few injuries at the time, and he all of a sudden just burst onto the scene. I remember, I'll never forget, I think the first time I properly saw him was it this game? Yeah, it was this game there where he made that challenge. It was against Plymouth. It was Lee Bowyer's first game as caretaker, and he started right back, and he was absolutely mustard. He was phenomenal that game, and I couldn't. No Plymouth winger. That tackle there was that summed up his game. The Plymouth just could not deal with him. They could not get past him, and he just got stuck in, and he was just absolutely fantastic. And I remember saying to my dad was next to me, and he was like, "He has been fucking brilliant today," and I was like, "Mate, I do." Because we've obviously got one of the most prestigious academies in the country, and I do when a youngster comes into the team, me and my dad do like to look at youngsters, and we look at their performances, and we're very, very early judges, but we do go, he's going to be good, and you'll hear that again from another player in my team later on, but we'll get to that later. But Dijksteel played quite regularly in the 18-19 season. I think he was was very underrated. He was very underrated when he played for us, because he was just so dominant. He was so brilliant, getting stuck in with challenges. No one could very rarely get past him on that right side. And he was an attacking player as well. You know, I think he could also play in midfield. We never played him in midfield, but he would always like to come inside in the midfield and play those passes. There was one in that compilation there. He would get forward. He scored a goal as well. Scored one against Scunthorpe, I remember correctly. And when he scored his first goal, because he was one of my favourites at the time. I remember going absolutely mental when he scored. I was like, get in. And then I think we got, what was it, 2 million out of him in the end when we went to Middlesbrough.
Yeah, 2 million to Middlesbrough, yeah.
I was gutted when we sold him because he played the first game of the season against Blackburn, and I mean, obviously we tried to build. Obviously, I can understand it. £2 million for an academy player is great money, and we. Yeah. But the problem was we was under Rowland at the time, who was very much, not really an investor, because at the time he was trying to sell the club, wasn't he? He wasn't really someone that would pump the money back in. So that was the difficult thing about it. We sold him for £2 million, and we know in full well that money wasn't going to get reinvested. But yeah. I was gutted when he left. But Dijksteel was definitely one of my favourites. Chris Solly was probably the obvious pick, obviously, because he missed the Charlton. He's been here for years. But I just think I don't know what it was. I just wasn't a massive fan of Solly. I think he kind of tailed off towards the end because he was just so injury prone. I remember he failed a medical at Man United, I think it was, back in the day, and he just struggled so much of injury. And I think Dijksteel came in and he just did a fantastic job out of the gate. Really, come through the academy, put in such solid performances, and again, like I said, was just such a personal favourite of mine. Very technically gifted with his feet as well. Very clever.
Well, I was going to say, I think that's the big difference between him and Solly. Solly was your sort of 7 out of 10 every week. You were going to get a workhorse-like performance from him. He would always be absolutely solid. He would give everything. But Dijksteel sort of didn't need to, because he was sort of that level above technically. It looked like, from the clips I've seen and the games I did see of him, it looked like he was just able to sort of, his pace made up for a lot of, obviously when you're younger, you don't have that knowledge of the game. Whereas Solly was the opposite. Solly didn't have that pace, but obviously as he's been there such a long time, he read the game better. Dijksteel obviously didn't leave under as a little snide and didn't play for us those last couple of games in the Championship, which made us go down. So there you go. That's the difference between two. He actually came from the Nike Academy, so I thought he just. I was about
to mention that as well. Like very strange sort of path. I don't really know too much about the Nike Academy and how much they work under and what their philosophy is. But yeah, I remember looking at that and I was like, Nike Academy. It's a strange sort of path to go through.
Like you, I don't know anything about it, but what I think it does show is that we're still good at picking up youngsters, because
for sure,
come through, and obviously you give that match day polish that makes him a real player. No, I think it's a solid choice. 41 appearances from us as well, and he's already got 101 appearances from Middlesbrough, and a Middlesbrough team that are doing really, really well by our accounts. Up there, top of the Championship, probably be challenging for playoffs. So yeah, I think it shows. You picked. It's a solid player. Do you reckon he's got enough to go on to the Premiership and kind of do a bit there, or not?
I would like to say yes, but I'd probably lean more towards no. I think with Middlesbrough, even though he's played 100 games, I think he's found it a bit difficult at times. I think I remember a few Middlesbrough fans, and I remember seeing online maybe a year or so ago, they're not a massive fan of him. But I think he struggled with an injury here or there, and he's found himself in and out of the squad. But I think for the most part, I think he's been a regular and probably a solid Championship player. And I think that's probably what he'll probably continue to be and establish himself as. And I think he's an international as well for Suriname, I think it is. I think because obviously he was Dutch, but I think Suriname, don't quote me on this, but I think they are a Dutch colony, or they've got Dutch roots or something like that. And that's why so many Dutch players that can't break into the Netherlands team are going over there. So fair play to him. He's got himself an international team to play for, and he's a regular Championship player. So fair play to him. And I think that's probably where he's going to end up. Would like to see him in the Premier League, don't get me wrong, but not quite
I guess sure. What you hope is that Middlesbrough get promoted and they give him a few games then, and we get a bit of a sell-on fee. That's what you really want for him.
That would be good to see.
That'd be nice. All right, so your last of the back line across the last centre back. Who have you gone for?
We've still got two. Two centre backs to choose from. First one again could be quite a controversial choice considering the club he come from, but I've gone with George Teixeira.
Right, let's play this video.
I remember this. Birmingham's last minute winner, I think it was. Last minute when we had when we thought we could possibly play up that season. The passion as well, kicking the advertising board is brilliant. The passion kicking the advertising board is superb. Like, is one of the many few players that we thought that showed passion from the network of clubs that that Rowland from the network of clubs that he come from.
So I was going to say, I have never heard that guy's name before. When you wrote it, I thought you just smashed the keyboard and couldn't think of someone. But is this the model working? Is this what Roland took us over for? He come from Standard Liège. Is this what the grand plan was? Do you think?
Well, that's what his transfer policy was really when he first come about. He took over the club. What was it, 2013? I think we was fighting relegation at the time, and I'll never ever forget this. I think it was literally a day or two after he got taken over. He took over the club. He sent an email to Chris Powell saying that, I've taken a look at our squad, and I don't think it's good enough. I think we need a goalkeeper, we need a right back, we need a right mid, and we need a striker. And these are the players you're going to get, because Roland owned a Standard Liège, he owned another Belgian team, St. Troyden, I think it was. He owned a team in Hungary, a team in Germany, and a team in Spain. And that was his philosophy. The philosophy of his club was just moving players from these network of clubs. And quite a lot of the players that we had under certainly in his early years anyway, was players from Standard Liège. And Teixeira was one of them. And I think many Charlton fans would say the players that did come over were very much just poor. Like the players that didn't understand English game, players that shouldn't really have been professional footballers, really. But Teixeira was one of the many few that came to us and actually were very solid. Like he come into the team, and I'll say it wasn't very difficult to do, because 2015-16, that team was just absolutely appalling. The defensive line we had Rod Fanny, we had Roger Johnson, we had some absolute stinkers in that defensive line, and one of a few players that actually did quite well. Alou Diarra was another one I nearly chose. Obviously, World Cup player, a World Cup winner. Did he win the World Cup with France? I'm not entirely sure. I don't know. Anyway, I know he played in a World Cup with France. But yeah, and then Teixeira come in, and he was just brilliant, dominant in the air, very imposing defender. And you see there with that clip, I think a last minute winner against Birmingham, when we thought we had like that little glimmer of hope, where we thought that we could keep ourselves up, and obviously it didn't work. But kicking the advertisement board there, he showed that he actually had passion for the club, and he actually showed himself. But he scored a lot of goals for us for centre back as well.
6 goals in 39 appearances for a centre back. That is solid, isn't it?
It is, and he got a few of them in League One, because he stayed in the first season in League One when we finished 13th. But he was one of the very few that come over from Belgium that actually did very well. Like I said, he was imposing, dominant centre back, very good in the air, scored goals, and showed the passion. And I was disappointed when he left the club, but and then again, completely understandable. You know, I mean, he don't really want to stick around in the third tier of League One for how long. So.
Yeah, I mean, the club he goes on to, he makes 135 appearances for. It's in the Belgian league. Can't pronounce the names. I'm not going to bother trying. But I mean, he played for 6 teams in 5 different countries. He purely is like the epitome of a journeyman. But like you said, any player that comes on and shows a bit of passion and does that, I completely understand it. Because when you're there and you feel like no one gives a shit, someone doing that and then kicking the advertising board, it's like when Garner, got sent off against Ipswich and.
That was brilliant. That was fantastic.
I was like Garner all the way through. This guy understands it. It doesn't take a lot. I'm very fickle, and I think a lot of fans are. That just showing that bit of emotion, it goes a long way. Yeah,
definitely, 100%. And I think that's what it doesn't take much for Charlton fans to really. I think, like you say, fickleness. It doesn't take much for Charlton fans to like a player. If you show a bit of passion, like if you run up to the like, I don't know, towards the not Jimmy C stand. That's the away end. That's embarrassing. The covered end. If you go towards the forgetting the end, I sit in. That is absolutely.
I think that's the end of the interview. Nice to talk to you, Tyler.
I cannot believe I've done that. Anyway, when you go towards the covered end and you show a bit of passion, like a prime example, John Robinson, I think was perfect at that in the Premier League. Like he would celebrate like when we got a corner, when we scored a goal. If you show that a bit of passion, it doesn't take much for Charlton fans to, get on your side. And I think Garner there's a perfect example. And I think Teixeira was another player who showed that as well. Like you say there, like kicking an advertising board for a 2-1 win over Birmingham when we're mired in a relegation battle that we know full well that we're going to lose. It's just brilliant. And that's why it wasn't just that as well. It was also his ability. Like he was just a very good defender in what was a very, very bad era for Charlton. But it was that glimmer of hope, shall we say.
So who's your centre back pairing with him?
I don't think it takes a genius to guess who this is. It's a very easy choice. It's of course Patrick Bauer. I couldn't pick anyone.
Josh Cullen, he's dug the cross out. The queuing up, and Paul Churchill playing in, but forced in. Patrick Bauer. Charlton players write the legend. Wembley, so cruel for Sunderland again. They will not want to see this place again. Absolutely stunned.
Can't really show any other clip than
I
that.
didn't want to
can
say
you?
anything during that. I just wanted to take in.
So
No,
good.
I didn't want to say anything during that. I just wanted to take that in. It is the best Charlton moment I've ever had. It's the commentary as well that makes it. The commentary is absolutely brilliant because
Yeah.
obviously Sunderland hadn't won. Sunderland hadn't won at Wembley. I think it was like 6 or 7 times in a row. And it's that the little dig at it as well that it got cut from that part there. But it goes on to say, "But Wembley is a place for winners." And I'm just like, that is the best. That is the best line of commentary I've heard in a very long. It's to do with Charlton anyway. But yeah, you could not have picked a better clip than that. That is I think that is the best Charlton moment I've had. Certainly in my lifetime anyway.
I mean, it just sort of came out of nowhere, didn't it? And we were kind of battering them, and it did feel like the momentum was with us. But I think you could have asked 1,000 Charlton supporters who was going to score that second goal. No one would have picked Bauer. Like, it just came out of nowhere.
The thing is with it though, because Bauer scored again with Teixeira, he scored a fair few goals for us. But I think that was the only season, it must have been the only season he was here where he didn't actually score a goal, and we was all just sat there because I think throughout the whole season, I kind of planned ahead. Predicted it. I was like, he's got to score because he usually does. He usually scores during the season, and he come very close throughout that promotion season to scoring. And I remember predicting it. I think it was in my vlog on the second leg against Doncaster. I remember saying, "Yeah, we're going to win 2-0 and Bauer's going to score," because I just had that feeling that he was going to score, and he could not have chose a perfect place to do it. But it was just heart-wrenching that was his last goal and that was his last appearance for us. I was gutted again, and like Dyke, still gutted when he left.
Yeah, I mean, he went to Preston, didn't he? And we got 1.5 million for him. Apparently, I have to look that up because it sounds like a lot of money for us. But get 1.5 million to him from Preston. You mentioned it earlier. So players that go away and come back, would he be one of those players you make an exception for? Would you have taken him back in this window, or do you think it's just not quite right?
He probably would be. He'd probably be one I'd make an exception for. He's out of favour at the moment at Preston, and I remember seeing a tweet actually like, Bauer's not getting games at Preston. How are Charlton not looking at him? And it's like, it's one of those again, like Phillips, like he knows the club a lot for so long, and he was another one of those players who come in from abroad. He come in from Portugal, I think it was Maritimo. We got him from some weird, completely out in the sticks somewhere, and he come out of nowhere. And again, like Teixeira, he was one of the many few that actually played well, but he stuck with us and he carried on with those consistent performances at the back. Again, very heavily dominant, scored loads of goals. Was injured a few times, and I think he was injured actually during the promotion season, and he was a big miss during that time when we had him. And when he come back, he come in and done such a solid job. But like I said, I was gutted when he left. But I think I remember his justification was perfectly reasonable. He had a young family. He wanted to secure his future and stuff. And he's gone to Preston, and he was definitely a solid player when he first joined them, and has since fell out of favour with who's their manager now? Ryan Lowe, I think it was, the old Plymouth manager. He's sort of fallen out of favour now. So I think with how poor our defence has been, not just this season, but over the years, I think he would be someone that we benefit from massively with that experience, not just League One experience, but Championship experience now, and someone who can command that box as possible. Well, if Dobson wasn't the captain, probably would be a good shout for a captain. Someone that can lead the defensive line and someone that can slot in quite nicely with the likes of Jones and Gillespie, who's come in recently. So yeah, Bauer would definitely be one I'd like to see back. And the one bad memory I have from him in the Championship season, he scored against us at Deepdale when we lost 2-1 to win the game 2-1, and that was a gut punch. But fair play for him for not celebrating. I think, that's a level of respect I have for that man. He's just fantastic. Great player.
It'd be interesting to see, Michael Appleton played three centre-backs in the last game. It'd be interesting to see who those three are, because it felt like he recalled Ness. And I thought Ness had just fallen completely out of favour, but he recalled Ness. So you'd think, right, are we looking at another centre-back, or is Ness the way forward? It looked pretty solid. I didn't think we looked bad. I just thought that we were playing with a team at the top end of the league, and they just looked a bit better than us. And it was more going forward that we seemed like we didn't have anything, rather than at the back. So yeah, it'd be interesting. But they have to make decisions. What I do respect about this ownership is that we haven't bent over completely for Clark Harris. I would have loved to have seen him come in.
Oh yeah,
sounds like we made two contract appeals for him. We've agreed a fee. I can't imagine they're going to pay him any less than they're paying Fraser. But you'd think that it seems like we're making solid business decisions, and I think the best one of those has been Coventry, because he looks like he's going to, if he can keep him for 2-3 seasons, he could really take us somewhere, I think. So I kind of respect, and we'll look at it after the transfer window. Obviously, I'll be looking for your video to see how we've really done. But it does seem like we're doing the right thing. And if Bauer's not the right guy, he's not the right guy.
Yeah, I mean that's a good thing with this ownership. They have got that spot on. We are signing League One established players and quality players that can progress further. With Coventry, I'd hope he's not Dobson's replacement, because I would like to see those two play together. But I think realistically he will be, and I think it is a good replacement to come in. You know, he's a solid League One player, and it's not just him as well. You know, I think Gillespie will come good. I think Backinson looked good in his first game as well on loan, and he's a no brainer as well. If he does well for us, we can get him for a free at the end of
the City lad as well. I mean, the City lad, we didn't see that much of, and he misplaced one pass. I thought, how the fuck has he done that? But you do think, right? Well, with Backinson and what was his name again? Fiorini?
I don't know how you pronounce his name.
With them two, we've got this little trial period. It's like, that's good business if they want to stay, and if we look like we're going in the right direction, they hopefully will. But Coventry, the thing with Dobson is that I love him. I think he's an amazing player. But I don't think he's the captain. I don't think you can rely on him to get everyone else going. If you look at Pratley, when he was sort of skipping, he was really good at getting everyone else to play well, even when he was shit. Dobson's really good at playing well, but he can't get everyone else to play well. And I think that what we need is maybe someone, and it looks like Coventry, who doesn't need to rush around. He sort of has a bit more time. So I think if you put him with Dobson, I think you're right. Because when you look at Dobson and the things he can do, I don't think we're seeing the best of him. I know it was only against Cray, but the ball he played for May and the goal he scored, it was like watching Paul Scholes. It looked like he's got real quality, but I don't think he can do that and also win every ball back and sprint all over the pitch for 90 minutes. So someone like Coventry to actually manage the game and let Dobson do a little bit more, great. But if we lost Dobson, hand on heart, I don't think I'd be as gutted as I should be, because I think it will be the right decision. I don't think we're going to let him go unless we've got cover for him, and I think Coventry is good cover for him.
Yeah, I think, as you say there, I think Coventry is probably the like for like replacement. I think with Dobson, I think out of all the other players we have, he probably is the only choice really for captain, because I think we do lack that sort of leadership in the team, and I think Dobson probably out of everyone that we have is the ideal man. I think I don't know. I just think with Dobson, I think he's been the best player out of a very poor group of Charlton players over the last few years, but he has carried this team on his back for 2.5 years. And I think that he's been levels above. I think to see him go would, in my opinion, I'd be devastated, because I think he has been the best permanent player we've had over the last few years, which I suppose possibly isn't saying much considering the players he's had around him, but he has been levels above. And I think that he would get into most of League One's teams right now. There's probably a few that he wouldn't get into, but I possibly could even push into the Championship. I do think he is that good, and I think he can definitely do that. And I will be gutted when he does go, but I think if the ownership can tie him down to that contract and can convince him to stay on for next season, we could be looking at some very good options in midfield next season, on paper anyway, with Coventry. If Backinson comes back and if Fiorini can perform, and I mean, we've still got a few players coming back from injury. You know, Terry Taylor will probably feel like a new signing. Conor McGrandles, who improved. He improved. I don't rate him. I haven't seen him, but I don't think I've seen much of him. But he improved.
I haven't seen the best of him. I completely agree, but I don't think we can hinge all our hopes on him. But I do think you're right. I think in terms of quantity, I'd much rather Appleton has the problem where he's got too many players and not enough, and that's what it's in the last couple of years. Right, we've gone over 5 minutes over the hour mark, and we're not into midfield yet, so I think we've got to let's crack on. So it's 4 across the middle. Who are we going for first?
So we'll start with the we'll go the same way I did. So we'll go from the left, and on the left midfield position, probably one of the best left foots I've seen play for Charlton, Johan Bert Goodmanson. And that is exactly who he was. Exactly who he was. That strike there. That is that he did that on the regular so many times for us. Absolutely unbelievable left foot.
Could I go as far as saying the Charlton David Beckham?
Well, by a very,
No,
a very,
no
a
is the
very,
answer.
a very
No,
budget
it's fine. You can say no. You can say no. It's fine. I don't mind. I
a
just
very
think that
budget
what he was
David
good
Beckham,
at
but
was whipping a ball in. He worked hard. He set himself up nicely. He just had that ability to sort of put it on a sixpence, if you like. I think in terms of what he offered, that's kind of what he did.
yeah. Yeah, for sure. He got himself about, was a hard worker, and like I said, just wasn't afraid to have a shot, which I think was what this team, or the team that he was part of, was lacking. You know, just a confidence in front of goal, players that just were afraid to have shots, and Goodmanson just wasn't there. If you gave him time and space, 20 or 25 yards out on his left peg, he's going to have a shot, and probably there's a very good chance he's going to fly into the back of the net. I mean, that one is like that one goal. I think goal of the year. I think not just for Charlton, but also in the Championship, and deservedly so. Just absolute peach right into the top corner, and free kick specialist as well. Could hit a free kick for fun as well, and it was just brilliant. And he's obviously gone on to have a well-established career in the Premier League with Burnley, and he's I think he still gets games for them now, which is insane. He's like what, 33, 34 now?
Yeah. It's amazing. I think in terms of, you know, when you're looking at the periods you're looking at, there aren't many better players than him in terms of that position. I think it's a case of, you know, that when you look at the quality, he's, like you said, he's gone on to played in that team. I brought it up a couple of times already, but he played in that team that knocked England out of the World Cup.
Oh yes.
That was a little silver lining for me. I hate to say it, but I was so depressed. I was sitting there and I was like, this is the worst I've ever felt as a football fan. That is the worst game of football I've ever seen. But at least the player who has played in that team played for Charlton. Like, that's all I can take away from this.
Yeah. It's very rare as well when you get like a I think we appreciate a lot of our international players when they go on the main stage. I remember another one, a player we won't probably remember too fondly, Reza Gujanajad for Iran in the 2014 World Cup. He was another one that was sort of like,
was he the Iranian Zidane? Is that what they called him?
He was a striker. I think it was kind of what, well, I don't know, probably along those lines, but he definitely did not live up to that sort of, not that sort of level anyway. But yeah, we do kind of appreciate the internationals when they do play, and that's probably the only silver line as a Charlton fan you can take from that Goodmanson went on to go play against France. They got a romp in the next game, lost 5-0, I think. But yeah, in terms of his Charlton days, Goodmanson was just levels above the players that he was around, really, and what was a very poor bunch of players that there was just no cohesive unit. It was just a bunch of players, and Goodmanson was probably one of the many few that had quality. And again, you cannot blame him whatsoever for going to play in League One, because him in League One would have been criminal, absolutely criminal.
Yeah, no, just a solid player. I mean, to be fair, it's one of those, he's come up a few times, especially with those that have had the same parameters on that you have. He was just absolutely solid. We were lucky to have him for as long as we did, and kind of proofs in the pudding, because he's still getting games in the Premier League. I mean, it goes a long way, doesn't it? Exactly. So that is you're saying left mid for him. Was he left or right mid?
I think he could play on either side, to be fair, but I've stuck him on the left.
So are you going for the right mid, or are you going through the middle?
We'll go with the right mid, and this is a player who burst onto the scene in the same season, 2015-16, and actually took Goodmanson's number in League One. And I would go as far as saying there's probably the best academy prospects that has ever come through the Charlton Academy. You can probably guess who it is. It is Ademola Lookman. So
this is another muted video because it's got some terrible track underneath it, and it's just some
the old compilation videos. But this kid, again, just kind of like Dijksteel, when we first saw him play, you could just tell straight away that he was going to be a talent, and you can just look at the career that he's gone on to have, and it speaks volumes and it's no surprise really, because just how good he was. It's the fact that, again, like, it probably wasn't hard to do with the group of players that we had in 15-16, but the fact that he just burst onto the scene in his first professional season and done as well as he did was just phenomenal. And even in League One, but I feel a bit sorry for him in his League One days in this season. But I mean, just look there how good he is with the ball at his feet. But I remember under Russell Slade when it was Russell Slade when we had him, and he played him as a number 10 when it was just like, it just wasn't his game. He was just so alienated in the middle of the pitch. And I remember seeing it. I went to Gillingham away. I remember seeing it happen like in person. I'm just like, this just isn't his game. It's not his game at all. He's wasted in the middle of the pitch, because you've got to have him in the middle, because he can take players on, he can push forward, and he can score goals.
It's really interesting you say that, and I appreciate what you're saying completely. But do you think, like that problem Appleton's got with May at the moment, you've got your best player, you need to have them in the most effective position on the pitch? Because I'm not saying you should, because they've both been proved wrong, obviously, but I can understand that need by a manager of like, I've got fuck all to choose from. this guy is a million times better than anything else I've got. I'm going to just stick him in the place where I can think he can do the most damage. Or do you think as a coach, you kind of need to go, right, well, this is ridiculous. I'm not going to play Paul Scholes on the left wing. I've got to play him in the best position. Let's just get him in there and let him do what he can do.
It's a weird one, especially with Alfie May, because we've seen, I mean, Alfie May's played in so many different positions and so many different variations throughout this season. I remember under Dean Oldham, we stuck him up front and just punted balls at him and expected him to get on the end of it. He was caught offside so many times. That definitely wasn't his game. And then when Appleton come in and he played him as a number 10 in behind a striker, all of a sudden he's bagging goals for fun and he's scoring goals. It's like, hang on a minute, we finally got the best out of him. This is his most effective position. And then it just frustrates me now when I see him on the wing, because it's just, I don't know. Like he could possibly do a job there because he's little and he's got the pace and he's got, I suppose, a little bit trickery with his feet. But I don't know. I just think I don't understand how you can score that many goals as a number 10 and be as effective there and then not play him there. I mean, I can understand obviously now with us changing formations and that, but it's just, I don't know. It's a very weird one.
Yeah, one thing that Brown said, and I love, I'm absolutely addicted to Charlton TV. I love watching Curbs and Brown analyse the game. One thing, and I'm a complete, again, I'm brainwashed by them. But one thing Brownie was saying was that the formation isn't as rigid as we think it is as fans. So, for instance, if May's starting on the right, he's not going to end up playing on the right the whole game. He'll move in. Yeah. I guess what the problem is, and again, Kerbishley will say this, God, and you can tell I'm fucking obsessed, can't you? Well, Kerbishley will say he's almost a bit too honest, so he'll track back more than he should do. So when you're playing him on the right, he almost sees himself as a bit of a right winger, so he'll be tracking back, winning the ball. What you really want to do is just say, stay in the fucking box, just stay there, and just the ball will come to you. And that's what happened. That's how he scored in the last game, isn't it? It just sort of bounced around and got to him, and he's sort of on the right side there when he's doing that. But with so going back to Lookman, you think, why? Like, when you see him there, he's got that sort of vision to look at the pitch. He's got it in front of him, and he can see, right, I can beat this player, beat that player, beat that player. When you're in a number 10, you don't have as much time to look around, do you? You don't have that ability to sort of see the game in front of you. So
exactly that, and that was just a weakness of Slade. Really, I think he was just a manager that just didn't really he didn't have the tools at all. He was just a very brainless manager. But with Lookman, I mean, he was just a fantastic player, and obviously we went on to sell him to Everton for £11 million, I think it was in the end, and he obviously, I think he scored on his debut against Man City. I think it was when they won 4-0. I'm trying to remember again at Goodison Park, and he obviously spent some time abroad at Leipzig, kind of lacked minutes there, and went to loan spells with Fulham and Leicester. Fulham, I think he was remembered quite poorly for that foul Panenka against West Ham, but that didn't really that didn't give him a good name there. But he still did a solid enough job, and the same at Leicester, and he's obviously absolutely smashing it in Italy with Atalanta at the moment. So he has definitely,
well, isn't he?
He has.
It's a shame when you look at it and you go, right, he's had quite a few moves. Is that because he's not fitting? But now, like you said, he's with Atlanta. He's doing their top 6 in a good league. You think, right, well, there you go. Maybe one more move and he'll sort of get that level up, or maybe that's his kind of level. Would you go as far as saying he's the best player at that sort of technical ability we've seen until Raksaki? Has there been anyone in between then? I mean, it's a shame that Raksaki's obviously not come through our academy. So obviously Lookman's going to be better because he didn't come through Palace. But I'm trying to think of anyone that's technically as good in between those two.
I think in terms of wingers, I really don't think there isn't. I think even when you take wingers away from that, there probably isn't, because Lookman was just that good. Like his technical ability for a youngster as well. And the same with Raksaki. Like we're talking about like 18, 19-year-olds when they were part of our team. The fact that they've got that much technical ability at that stage in their career is just fantastic. So, probably there probably was no one in between. You're probably looking at two probably the epitome of our technical players that we had in those days. And Lookman was probably, I'll probably have to put him above Raksaki, probably because he come through the Charlton ranks and he burst onto the scene as good as he did in a very poor team. And Raksaki still had poor players around him as well. We didn't have a great squad last season, but Lookman had just, I think, even worse players around him. And the fact that he did that well for a youngster was just phenomenal. And he's a player that I've kept a very keen interest in his career. And I think he's definitely hit the heights of what he was hyped to be, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going centre mids now. Who have you gone for?
Yeah. So first one, I think fairly standard choice. Mr. Charlton himself, Johnny Jackson. Easy choice.
Right. So these clips are a couple of the goals that Jackson scored. I like that one because it's the worst goal I've ever seen anyone score. Sort of and then you have these two kicks. It was. Is my memory wrong? But it seemed like these two came one week of each other, and they're both against Sheffield clubs, and they both look like pretty much identical.
Yeah, they were. These were back to back. So when we had Wednesday, I think, we had Wednesday on the week. Yeah, they were. I think they were weekend games back to back. Sheffield Wednesday free kick 1-0, and then Sheffield United. I was actually at the Sheffield United game when he scored that free kick, and we won that game 1-0 as well. And it was just I think that especially in his early days at Charlton, I think that might have been his first. Was that I think it maybe his second proper season at Charlton.
Yeah.
Because we signed him on loan initially, and then we got him on a permanent. I think that's how it worked. I'm not entirely sure, but that was just how good he was at the start. And he's obviously, I mean, it speaks for itself. The career that he went on to have with us. He finished his career with us and spent so many years with us, and he was just Mr. Charlton, just so dedicated to this club. The passion was just there. The amount of games that he played. Gutted that he didn't make it to 500 career appearances in total. He made 499 in the end. It was one game away, and I was just like, oh, come on, man, bring him off the bench in just one more game or come out of retirement or something. But he was just Mr. Charlton. He just gave everything for this club, and of course went on to become assistant manager and managed us for a period as well. He just absolutely adored this club, and that is why he was just one of, if not probably my favourite Charlton player of all time, probably.
Yeah, I completely appreciate that coming from when you watch it. And I think that's the benefit of getting someone who's been around the block a little bit, has a little bit of an understanding of how the game works. Obviously, was started at Spurs, goes to Notts County, and has that really weird period with Sven-Göran Eriksson and like Sol Campbell and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
What I felt with Jackson was that he kind of when I come back to the club and we had. It seemed like we had this kind of trio in Bauer, Jackson and Gallen. And it seemed like Gallen was able to go and find them. Jackson would coach them and Bauer would put them in the team and play them. And it seemed like there was a philosophy, there was a bit of an idea around how we were doing things. And then so when Jackson's still there as caretaker and then he gets him put in charge and he goes on that mad run, you sort of feel like, right, this is being built from a great structure that's still there. It's still sort of alive. It's still has a good solid standing in Charlton history as well as moving forward. And then obviously we sack him and he goes away to AFC. Do you think that we have had a better manager since him? And do you think we still be in the same position we're in now, considering the ownership all happens the same way? But do you think if we would be in a slightly better or slightly worse or basically the same if Jackson stays on and carries on as manager for a bit?
It's a very difficult question, I think, especially considering the managers we've had after him, where you probably say we haven't really found that manager that's clicked yet. Probably since Lee Bowyer either. I'd like to go back to the structure that we had under Lee Bowyer, and Bowyer, Jacko, and Gallen. That was just what was so beneficial to the team playing so well. Like I saw it because I had work experience a couple of times during that season, and I see Jackson do it, and he was just so. It was just brilliant the way he organised everything so well, and he got the team playing as a cohesive unit. I mean, you probably would have seen on social media a few times some fans reminiscing over that team, and it was just pure vibes. Everyone got on with each other. It was just that team philosophy, and it was from that built that. I think Jackson. I think I don't know whether you agree. I think Jacko was sacked very prematurely when he was sacked. I think that it was very weird because Sangard, like, he didn't want to appoint him. Let's be honest. Sangard did not want to appoint him, but he just did so well. All of a sudden,
he could not, could he?
Exactly. Like if he didn't, it would be like he'd be calling for his head, like 100%. He had to give him the job, but then he put parameters on him and he threw him straight in the deep end. He was like, right, you got to finish top 8 or you're gone. And he didn't back him in the January transfer window. He had a very not underachieving squad. We had a very poor squad that season. And that's what really frustrated me because the team looked like they wanted to get Jackson the job. They played so well under him. The second he gets the job, we go right back to where we were under Adkins before he come in. Like just the team that just looks unbothered. Like the team just didn't want to perform. And then Jacko, realistically, finishing 13th with the team that we had was the best that he could have done with the group of players that we had. And I think that if you'd have given him the summer to, get the players that he wanted, I mean, in hindsight now, when Ben Garner came in to replace him, he was only given League 2 players and he wasn't given a budget. We didn't spend any money. So we kind of would have set there thinking, Jackson could have done any better? But I do kind of look back now because, I mean, Garner wasn't all that, was he? We didn't play the attacking style of play we wanted to. Dean Holden, fantastic human being. again was probably sacked prematurely. I think Garner was sacked prematurely as well. Managers just not given the time. But again, Holden didn't really click in the first half of the season. And we're with Appleton now, who probably isn't doing himself, probably isn't justified to give him the summer window at the moment with his performances. So you
It's
probably
so
would
hard.
say Jackson.
I mean, sorry, go on, finish your point.
That's right. You probably would say Jackson would be at the top of those on that list, and obviously he's gone on. You look at his time at AFC Wimbledon as well. Like his first season with AFC Wimbledon, fans were calling him for him to get the sack as well because he really underachieved there, and all of a sudden something's clicked, and he's fighting for playoffs with them now. So he's doing very well. So it's a very weird one because we haven't had many better than him since then. But Jacko, like I said, I think with him as a manager, he did the best that he could have done with the group of players that he had at the time.
I think my struggle is I'm so fickle. I buy into every manager, every ownership. I think this is the light. Like so, you look at Atkins coming in, and you go, right, well, look at all these positivity videos. He's got promoted twice. It's CV wise, you can see why Sandgaard hires him because he's got the best CV that's out there. And then Jacko comes back in. You're like, right, Jacko's Mr. Charlton. He's going to do it. And then he's not really messing around with the formation. He's playing a bit too rigid. So he goes, and then you bring in Garner. And Garner, listen to Garner's interviews where he's been often managed in India, and he's got this really technical way of playing, and he's going to. The Garner ball is going to change the world. And then he goes, and then Holden comes in, and Holden's Mr. like fucking drinking in the pub after the games and like with the fans, and you think, right, this guy really connects, but he hasn't really got that technical ability yet, but he's going to go to United to study under Ten Hag in a training session, so maybe he brings that back, and then suddenly he goes, and then Appleton comes in, and you think Appleton's on this amazing run, he's playing May in a position, but oh right, we're not actually second half FC, we just chucks an EKFC, and he's there in the fucking football league, so of course we're going to do better. So you look at it all in hindsight and you go, of course that's what happens. It makes complete sense. But you do think, right, Sandgaard saved us. He did back that first. He spent a bit of money and he gets in players.
Oh, yeah, he did, yeah.
He buys Clare, he buys Dobson, he buys Charlie Kirk. Yes, his son's fucking organising those, so that's why they end up being shit, apart from Dobson. So it's a fucking mess. But I do think that one thing's been proven with Jacko going is that sacking managers don't work. Exactly as you said, Jacko getting a bit of backing and a bit of time, suddenly he's getting them into playoffs. So God knows if he had been here still, what would we have built from that? But it's so hard because now you go, right, you learn from your mistakes, and they said it in a directors meeting. You learn from the mistakes, you give your manager time. But Appleton keeps losing, so what the fuck are we going to give him time? I think the point I'm trying to make is it's really difficult. I'm struggling with it, which is why I don't go anywhere near what you do, which is talk about it with hard and confusing.
It's so hard because you end up contradicting yourself so many times. Like you make this point and then you make another point there, and it just becomes just a big jumble. It's just the best way to put it. It's just a circus. It is just an absolute mess, and that's the best way to put it. But yeah,
just accept it and move on, basically.
Exactly. But to finish off with Jacko, should have been given more time as a manager, but as a player, speaks for itself, really. Mr. Charlton, so much passion, fantastic midfielder. Should have got to 500 career appearances, but I could not have put any better player in the middle of the park, and probably would have him as my captain for this team for sure.
I think that's a good shout. Right, and next to him in centre mid, who are you playing with him?
I am going with another prospect, another product of the Charlton Academy, who was a player that I recognised very early on in his career that he would be a solid player for us, Joe Aribo. I can't help but watch that.
I normally remove the music from those. Sorry, go on. So Joe Aribo, product of the academy. Kind of see why you would choose him. What was it about him specifically, though?
I just have to say I couldn't help but smile watching that compilation because it's just those memories of how good he was back then. I think I remember very fondly back to the first time I think me and my dad first saw it, because I mentioned previously like we like to look at academy players and we recognise if they're good players. can never remember what game it was. It was in the 16-17 season where he first broke through, because we got him from Stainstown. Again, shows how good we are in terms of recruiting players. And we can pick them up sort of from out of nowhere, from like non-league and Sunday league teams, and bring them into the academy. I can't remember what game it was, but I remember watching him in the middle of the pitch, and I turned around and my dad tapped me on the shoulder, and he was went, "Who was that number 32?" And I went, "Joe Rebo, like just come through the academy." And he went, "I like the look of him. Like he's gonna be good." And I turned around to him and I was like, "Yeah, like he's gonna be solid." And obviously we'd have to say we got that one right. He just come through, and I think in that 16-17 season it wasn't difficult for him to break into the team, because we had a shocking team, especially in the midfield as well. Like he just come in, just sort of walked his way in, and then 17-18 he kept his spot in the team, and again, just another fantastic technical player in the middle of the park that scored goals, got himself about, a player that had seemingly a lot of confidence. And I'll never forget the day he scored his first goal for the club against Blackpool. It was the first goal in that compilation there. Just takes the ball so well, skips past so many defenders, and then just sticks it away in the bottom corner. I went to see him after the game, actually, because I got his name and number on the back of my shirt. The 16-17 season, I got a 16-17 home shirt with his name on the back, and I went back after the game and he signed it for me, because he won man of the match. And I still need to get it framed now. It's still in my wardrobe, just collected dust. I need to get a frame for it. But yeah, he was just
do it as quick as you can. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I've just found out today that all of my old Charlton shirts that I'd left in my dad's loft have been thrown away. I'm pretty sure I can't find them anywhere. So I've had these three up on the back from the beginning. I was like, I'll go and pick up the ones from my dad. But I've got when I was mascot, I had the whole team signed my red bus kit. I think I've got home shirts all the way from must be 97, 98, all the way through till 07, 08, and they've just fucking disappeared. So yeah, do it quickly, get it framed, lock it away, do something with it, because it could go missing.
100%. It's something I definitely got to get framed up and get like some, I don't know, some sort of like nice design on it, like pictures of him as well and stuff like that. But yeah, I just looking back at it, I look back with a bit of sadness that he didn't stay as long for longer. Obviously I can understand. Obviously, championship season when we got promoted, he goes to Rangers. I can see the pull factor. Obviously, they're a team fighting for Europe, even though they are in a league that is not exactly the best of quality. Let's be honest, the SPL, it is just Rangers and Celtic. But I think, being managed under Steven Gerrard, they're fighting for Europe. I can understand the pull factor, but he was just a brilliant technical player in the middle of the park that scored goals and had a lot of confidence, and was a great part of the team that was just, as I said, just pure vibes. Like they just got on with each other, and he was just a fantastic player, and Bauer got the best out of him. And you could tell in the playoff final, especially, like he kind of overdid it with his technicality and some of the tricks that he did. You could tell that he was trying to impress like scouts and trying to get that move. I remember speaking to friends about it. You could tell that he was, putting on a bit of a show. But the thing is, he could do it. He had that confidence, and he had the ability to do it. And that is why he is just a very, for me, easy choice for my fantasy 11. I had to put him in there. He's just so good.
He was, wasn't he? And I mean, yeah, watch that playoff final, and you just felt like anytime he got the ball, something was going to happen. Like he had that ability to create as well as finish. And you look at it and you go, right, you got him, you got Cullen, Taylor up front. You had any of those in the current team, you'd be like, we'd be levels above. We really took for granted how good that team was, I think. Yeah. It assembled something that really worked. Yes, it had a Rickett in it, but Parker didn't score a goal the whole time for us, but the core of that team was really solid. So we've gone 4-4-2. So two strike. We are onto the strikers, aren't we? Before I get
we are, yes, we are.
So who do you want to go with first out of your two centre forwards?
You have just mentioned him again, part of that squad that got promoted, and it is obviously a big shame considering how much he's hated now by the fan base, and probably rightly so. But unfortunately, I have had to go with Lyle Taylor in my team.
Reeves lurking here, Ben Reeves, Taylor reacting. He's become the leading man for his local club.
What a scumbag.
Yeah. I feel horrible even putting him in my team, but it's I
The
do feel.
difference is, and again, sorry, I'll jump in and I'll let you go on about why you picked Taylor. But my heart was broken so much by Scott Parker when
Yeah.
like that was the first time, like getting rejected by girls, you know, not making it into the school football team, nothing in comparison to Scott Parker leaving in that January to Chelsea. But I hadn't had my heart broken again until, and it was in a different way when Taylor said, no, I'm just not playing the rest of the season, because it's like he just thought, no, fuck you, I'm going off. And the only thing I'd say is that his career has gone so downhill since then. You look at the stats that he got when he went to Forest and the amount of goals. I mean, he was on pretty much a goal every other game for us. And then he goes to Forest and he does nothing. And then he goes to Birmingham, gets 5 goals for them in something like 60, I think it's 64 appearances. Like, I just think that's a bit of karma. But just getting that out, right, carry on. Why have you picked Taylor?
Oh, I do completely agree, but I think the simple reason why he is in the team is because I don't think we've had a better striker at the club since then, probably now to Alfie May, because the simple truth is he was just that good. He was just fantastic. He come into the team, Bauer brought him in. He said, yeah, I think he was very close to joining Sunderland, and he come to us and Bauer said, oh, we're going to make you a better player, and he got along with that philosophy. And you'd have to agree and say that he did do that. Took him a little bit, you know, to kind of settle in. And I remember when we first had him, I was like, is he going to be our leading talisman? But then we remember very fondly, I think, at the first half of that season, the partnership between him and Carl Grant was just something special, because the two they just clicked like that. And I don't think we've had a better strike partnership since that too, because they just set each other up. They were scoring goals for fun. And Taylor, when Grant left, Taylor just came into his own, because there was just no other. We didn't have any other better strikers like at our cover. We had Wether who scored a few goals but was injury prone. Josh Parker, while he had a great work ethic, didn't score goals. And Billy Clark was another one who we sold. Nicky Jose was terrible. Rico Hackett-Fairchild was someone.
Was he around at the same time, or was that a little bit before?
Jose was he was there. I think we loaned him out.
I'm saying Tony Watt, the Scottish lad.
Oh, Tony Watt. Oh, sorry. Yeah. I think we had him. When did we have Tony Watt? We had him, I think, 17, 18 with it. We eventually got rid of him. Maybe the season before. Yeah, he was gone by then. But yeah, we didn't have any other decent strikers besides Taylor and Grant. But when Grant left, Taylor just come into his own, because he was just the best. He was the best striker, levels above the rest of the ones we had. There was one goal that wasn't in that compilation there. The goal against Scunthorpe, the free kick that he scored, was just phenomenal. And of course, his penalty tactic, the walk-in penalty, that is. I'm still waiting for the day he misses one with that thing. But the thing is, he just never did. Like, he just found the back of the net. You'd always get that bit of nerviness when he walked up to take a penalty, but he just always put it away. But then, obviously, I mean, championship season he scored goals for us. But it's just, the real shame about it is the way that he left, because he tarnished every bit of sort of support and reputation that he had. In hindsight, you can understand it. I mean, obviously, going to Nottingham Forest, of course, paycheck, more money. He's getting towards the end of his career. Can understand it. It's the way that he left. Like, obviously, it's the way he left. Oh yeah, I'm not playing for the club. Fuck you. See you later. Goodbye. I don't want to get injured.
You might get an injury. That's the only reason. You might pick up an injury. But when you look at it, like, we had, 3-4 games left to go. We only needed a couple of more goals.
Exactly.
You think, like, that's the difference between him leaving and Solly leaving, and David Davis. Obviously, no one even remembers him. But they're the three that didn't honour the rest of their contracts, or not honour the rest of the contract. Didn't play out the rest of the season, but. With Lyle Taylor, it wasn't just his goals. He was our talisman. He lifted everyone around him.
Exactly.
And the guy dyed his hair pink for charity. Like, he knew he was. You really bought into him. Personally, I think since Mendonca, I don't think we've had a more natural goal scorer.
No.
Until Taylor. Like, we've had great players, of course we have, like great strikers, and obviously through, like, Darren Bent you probably put above him, and that sort of thing. But that nastiness, that ability to just finish, like, apart from Darren Bent, I don't think we had someone like that until Taylor. And then just to see the way he walks away at the end, it's like, oh fucking hell, like, what's the point? Like, just burn the shirt, burn the ground down, like, fuck it all. It really, really upset me. It really did.
But it is just a bit of karma as to how his career's gone on to have, because he barely got played at Forest, very rarely got a look in, went on loan to Birmingham, and then ends up at Wickham, leaves after 7 weeks, and he's now at Cambridge, managed by Neil Harris, of all fucking managers to have now, which is just it. Honestly, I cannot wait to play Cambridge away now, because that is going to be, it's going to be very interesting to see how that goes. But he'll probably score. Let's be honest, it's going to happen. Any ex-player, he's going to score.
Well, Jaden Stockley can score against us. Not even Jaden Stockley. Who's the defender that scored against us?
Sam Lavelle. Sam Lavelle from Carlisle. Yeah,
Oh,
it's just it's gonna happen, and he will, of course he will. We'll celebrate in front of us. Macaulay Bonne, when he shushed us at fucking Gills. Taylor's gonna do. Taylor, I don't want to know what Taylor's gonna do. Like, it's just, fuck it. Anyway, we should probably move on. Fantastic player when he played for us, but Jesus, ruined everything.
This is supposed to be a nice podcast.
I couldn't really pick anyone else. That's the thing. Like, who could I? I could have picked Carlin Grant, but then he did the same thing.
The thing is, he's so good. That's why it hurts so much.
Yeah,
fair enough. Okay, and so who's playing alongside him?
I think someone that can be very, very much justified to be in is someone we can speak about very fondly because he actually cared about the club. It is, of course, Jan Kermorgant. Fantastic player.
Jan Kermorgant looks as if he could be the man to strike this one goalwards. It is Kermorgant. It's 3-1. Wonderful strike for
he could half hit a free kick, this man.
Up and over the wall and beyond Brezovan.
He scored quite a few of them in his career with us.
Sorry about that clip. I didn't realise the commentator mispronounced his name. I can only apologise for that. But
that's right.
He's completely the opposite of what we were saying about Taylor, isn't he? He seemed to love and really buy into that club, and he also comes along in that season where Chris Powell just completely rebuild the team, and he's one of them, and we just push on from there, don't we?
Yeah, it was very weird because I think that season we had Wright Phillips who was scoring goals for fun that season, and he didn't really have anyone sort of note next to him. We had Paul Hayes, who I don't really know, I don't remember too much about him, and I think in January we brought in Danny Haynes, and then Kermorgant come in, who was out of favour at Leicester, and I remember signing him, and we was like, right, who's this guy sort of thing, like, let's see how he does, and he just almost immediately just clicked, like scoring free kicks, probably. I don't know, like him and Taylor are probably two very different players in terms of their ability. Taylor's more of, like, as you say, the talisman and, probably a bit more technical ability. Kermorgant was just like probably more your target man. He could take free kicks and score goals and headers as well. And the thing with Kermorgant is he, again, as you say there, he just loved the club and still does to this day. He's come out so many times, like with Valley stories and numerous documentaries, and he visited the Valley recently. Like, he does just love the club, and it was obviously, we can thank Roland for how he was completely mistreated by the club and how he left. He was just fantastic in the Championship. And what I'll never get over is Roland's justification for selling him. Oh, he's too old. Oh, he's not. Oh, he ain't good enough for the Championship. No. And then we sell him to Bournemouth, who were in the Championship and go on to win the league. He scores goals for fun for them. Yeah. And then he goes to Reading and he bags 2 against us in the 15-16 season. Did not celebrate, thank God, because he has that respect for the club. And that's why I love him even now. Like, he's just someone who actually has respect for the club and loves this club. And he's, again, like many of the players in my team, probably apart from his strike partner in my team, but a very easy choice.
Well, he's great character, isn't he? And
he is.
I didn't realise Powell was coach at Leicester when Kermorgant was there, and then
of course he was.
Yeah, so obviously that's the link, and fair play to Powell for being able to spot it and bring him through. I mean, that's the beauty of Powell, isn't it? He's Mr. Character. He can obviously spot good character, and I think that's probably why that team does so well, because they're not only are they great players, but they all seem like good lads as well. And I love the Mod Mag podcast, which unfortunately they haven't released one for ages, but they had Varney and the other guy who was in charge at the time, and they were saying that the way it works now and the way they did it with Powell was, Powell comes in, he says, right, this is what I want from a striker, this is what I want from a midfielder, this is what I want from a defender. Like, they said, right, that's great, we've got your characteristics, now go away and manage the team, and we'll present you with 3 options for each, and we'll get them signed. And that's what it seems like, a beautiful way of running a modern team now. Whereas when you hear Brownie talk about his time as a manager, he's driving up and down the country and he's making calls, he's making lists and stuff like that. But that's the beauty of Powell. He had those characteristics set of what he wanted. Kermorgant seemed like he summed it all up. He had not only technical ability, he's a workhorse, and he's got that great character. You sort of want a team of those kind of players that will give their heart and soul for the club, really, don't you?
Exactly that, and that's why it works so well. That's why we went on to have like the best season we've probably had in the last few years, finishing 9th, 3 points off the playoffs when we got promoted. You probably wouldn't have thought that when we got promoted. You know, Powell, as you said there, could just spot a character, and he had faith in the players that he was bringing in, and he had total confidence. And I think that's what brought the best out of Kermigan, because I think, remember, he looked back at that and he wasn't getting picked at Leicester, and he was kind of like I guess you could say sort of like on a downward spiral sort of thing, like possibly falling out of love of the game. And then he comes to Charlton and he got into the team, obviously, with the options that we had. Obviously, as I said, we had Wright Phillips who was scoring goals. We didn't really have anyone else that bagged goals up front anyway besides him. And then obviously Kermigan comes in, Powell gives him full confidence, and we obviously reap the benefit of that. And Kermigan, as you said, was just a fantastic character who loved the club, and just wish we could have had him for longer. If it wasn't for Roland just being completely ludicrous with his transfer strategy and bringing in, like, selling Kermigan to a fellow championship club when he said he's too old for that division. It's just like, that just sums up the Châtelet completely. But Kermigan just loved the bloke, absolutely loved the bloke, and hope he makes more appearances.
One stat I was surprised. So he had 89 appearances for us, and that's the most he has for any of his 10 clubs. And that really surprised me, because I don't remember him. Like, 89 is a lot of appearances. It's not loads. But to think like the impact he has at, like you said, at Bournemouth, you think like he probably played more. But no, I think that's quite a good stat for us, is that at least, I know we would have done with another season or two out of him, but at least he did have his longest spell at the club. And I think that's a good sign that we're doing the right thing anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, okay, so let's see this team on paper. So how do you feel about it? I mean, you're playing a 4-4-2. Some would say a dated formation. Some would say that's the way you've got to play it. Mike Bassett would agree with you. What are you thinking now, looking at it there in sort of red and green?
It's a very interesting team, as you say, with some interesting selections. I think on the whole, I think it is. I think I've done quite well. I think there's players there I think suit each other's play styles. There's a lot of speed, a lot of technicality in that team. I think in terms of the 4-4-2, you could maybe switch it up a little bit and push Aribo possibly a bit more forward and have him as kind of like a 10 position, and drop Jacko a bit further back. But Jacko is probably more of your box-to-box midfielder as well. And you got two goal-scoring strikers, as much as Lyle Taylor is probably hated nowadays, and even looking at his name on a Charlton shirt now is probably criminal, and I do apologise for putting him there. But yeah, I think there's two goal-scoring strikers there. There's wingers that are not afraid to have shots and good technical ability. Midfield looks solid defensively as well, which, you've got fullbacks that have got the freedom to push forward and can also do a job coming back. Dominant defensive, aerially dominant centre-backs, and a pretty decent shot stopper and commander of a box in Phillips. So I think on the whole, I think I've done quite well. And I think if you put it in, I don't know what league this would probably be good enough to compete in. I'd be interested to get your take on that, but I think it could probably do maybe a solid enough job in the Championship in its prime. I'm not sure, but yeah, maybe.
Isn't it? I think you look at that team and you go, right, Goodmanson, Aribo, Lookman, they're probably all good enough to play in the Premiership along with Kermigan in his prime. The back line, I don't think does it in the Prem. I think
probably not. Yeah,
a decent Championship team, but up front, I think we're going to get goals. So the question I ask everyone: who from our current squad, if you had to swap one of these players out for someone who's playing currently, who do you swap out?
Oh my God! Wow, that's
Richard, surely you've got so much choice.
There's probably two. I think maybe I get out of there. I think it's between getting rid of Taylor for Alfie May, probably purely because Taylor is just a scumbag, or maybe Teixeira out for Lloyd Jones, because Lloyd Jones I think has been. Well, he's been the best centre back at our team so far by a country mile, hasn't he? Like a very good piece of recruitment coming in from Cambridge. I mean, he won 4 Player of the Year awards last season. And he is the centre back that Ryan Inniss should have been. Just a aerially dominant centre back that is confident and isn't stupid in terms of making mistakes. And he actually keeps himself fit as well. He got injured very recently, but not as much as Inniss kept himself out for. But yeah, I think. I think Jones possibly coming in for Teixeira, and then, as I say, Taylor is just because he's he's such a prick. Alfie May could slot in probably quite nicely as like the big man, little man up front. Kermigan as the target man, May could latch onto it as a bit more technical ability player. Taylor's got to go. Arsehole, he's got to go. Alfie May, get him in for Taylor, 100%.
I think we have a much better Yeah, the fans are going to love them anyway.
Yeah.
And I asked it a few times early on, but everyone was picking the same person. But I'd be interested to see what your take on it is if you're setting the same parameters. Who do you have as manager?
Oh wow. I think it's got to be Lee Bowyer. I don't think there's anyone else I could really choose. I think as much as good as Chris Powell was, it's between him and Powell. I think I don't think I saw as much of Chris Powell's era as I did with Lee Bowyer. I think both of them were very good in terms of, you know, making players better, and obviously Powell was that character. But I think with Bowyer, considering he came in with no managerial experience whatsoever, but besides being assistant manager to Robinson, and he's just come in and got a terrible 17-18 squad that was out of the playoff hunt into the playoffs, was just full credit to him. And then obviously he gave me probably the best Charlton squad I've ever seen in the 18-19 squad. It was just fantastic, and he was at the heartbeat of it, and he just understood the club, and he fought for the club. And the prime example I have of it is when we got relegated and he went on TalkSport a few days later, and he was literally in tears to Laura Woods and Jim White, and it just showed how much he cared for the club and how much he really did want to stay. And that's why I think I resonate more with Bowyer than I do with Powell, because he did just want to fight for the club, and he understood it, and he was under horrible circumstances, much worse than what Powell was under with the Châtelet. I mean, Powell was mistreated under the Châtelet, but Bowyer was just like, what he went under with ESI was just absolutely criminal. And it is testament to him that he stuck with that. He stuck with the club, and he was just so passionate and gave us, as I said, probably the best times that I've had as a Charlton fan. He was just phenomenal.
I think that's a really interesting point, because I love Powell more than I love Bowyer. I've got a more affinity.
Yeah.
I
That's
was
understandable.
there when I was watching them, and you know, that was that. And I think he's probably a nicer guy, because, you know, Bowyer would do that thing of calling out players in and stuff like that, whereas you'd never see Powell doing it. But you're 100% right. Powell was back to 100% by the first ownership, and Bowyer had no backing at all. But listening to an interview with Bowyer, he said that the one good thing about that was that Rowland just let him get on with it. Like, it was just up to him and Jackson just to go and get the players, go and do what you want to do. We haven't got any money, just go and get who you can get in. And there's kind of you kind of build something with that. Whereas with the problem we had with Sandgaard is that they want too much input into it. And you know, players, who was the striker that they brought in who missed the penalty? Ronnie Shorts. I actually think he could have been a really good player. I would have loved to have seen him play more, because he was a bit something different that we didn't have, which was he looked like he was going to be just that player in the box who picked things up, but he just never got the chance to play that sort of position or formation. So, you know, that's the two sort of different styles of ownership. And yeah, I agree with you. I think Bowyer would be a really good shout. He's no Alan Kirbishley. He's no Jimmy Seed.
No, obviously not.
Understand. Mate, that's been absolutely fun. I've really enjoyed that. I hope you have. Well, I'm going to ask where people can find you, but first of all, what are you doing? When are you back? Are there any plans? What's the?
So my YouTube channel is my name on the screen there. Oh no, hang on a minute. There, right there. Oh, wait a minute. My hands. This is really weird. This is embarrassing. Anyway, my name's down there. Tyler Rowlinson. That's my name on my channel. I do. As I've said it at the start, I do plan to come back very soon. Hopefully, maybe next week, or I plan to do some big sort of thing of like a discussion of what the hell has happened with the club right now. But yeah, you can find me there. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter as well. Same names, Tyler Rowlinson. And yeah, just hopefully when I do come back, we can start to put some good form on the table, and I can have some good things to talk about. But this was brilliant. This was absolutely fantastic, you know, to reminisce over the good times that we had. And this is what I really like, what you stand for as well, and what you're doing here, and getting people talking and reminiscing over the good times, because there isn't a lot of good times with Charlton at the moment. And I think it is really important to do that and keep yourself upbeat and remember those good times, because at Charlton Athletic, we don't have many, do we? They don't come around very often, but when they do, they are. Yeah, they are good, and we hold on to them for a long time, and that's why this is fantastic to speak to. But yeah, Tyler Anderson, you can check me out there, and hopefully I will be back soon, maybe, possibly.
We're going to hold you to it, and if I don't get it soon, I'm going to go bloody mad. Tyler, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. Obviously, I'll be trying to nick a few of your subscribers somewhere, but thank you so much, and hopefully we'll speak again soon.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me on again. I really appreciate it.